They say the camera never lies. But what if the camera points at something the world has no place for? Something that moves like a man and hunts like a nightmare? What if the clip you're about to hear started as a shaky phone video at the side of a snowy road and ended with an explanation no sane person wants to accept? Tonight, we follow the trail of that footage, the eyewitnesses, the theories, the chilling aftermath. And we try to answer one question: what stalked those vehicles in the Russian night? It began, like so many modern legends do, on a phone. A single vertical clip, 37 seconds long, uploaded to a forum notorious for unverified sightings. The image is low resolution, a dim stretch of road, a pallid figure hunched beside a guardrail, headlights sweeping across its face. At first glance, it looks human. Then it rises, and something about the way it moves, the jerking, the two long arms, the tilt of the head, sets your teeth on edge. The first line of comments called it a man in a coat. The second line called it a prank. The third line stopped calling it anything at all. By dawn, the clip had been copied and reposted to dozens of channels. People slowed it down, enhanced it, argued over pixels. Some swore the figure lunged at the bumper of a passing car. The metal bent, the lights flickered, and for a heartbeat, the vehicle drifted as if someone had shoved it. Others pointed out that the shove might be wind, a 2-second engine sputter, the trick of compression artifacts. But then new footage surfaced. Different road, different town, same pale figure, same jerky gait. A truck dashcam captured something even clearer. The creature stepping into the high beams, then collapsing between the wheelbase and the roadside verge. The truck braked hard. Tires screamed. A passenger shouted. The creature lurched up and with unnatural force smacked the side mirror, as if to stop the truck from leaving. Those who saw that dashcam said they felt watched afterward. People started to look for patterns. The sightings clustered in a swath of cold, remote highways, stretches where towns are spaced like missing teeth and cell phone reception fractures like thin ice. Eyewitnesses described the same details again and again. A smell like copper and wet ash, the way the creature's eyes reflected like a deer's, but unfathomably dark, the half-eaten roadkill frozen in its throat, the animal quick lunges followed by long, disjointed pauses. The local police released a brief statement. No evidence of a criminal offense. No known animal species identified. Translation: we don't know what that was. Folklore crews and YouTube sleuths filled the gap. Some hypothesized a disease, a rabid wolf mutated by some chemical spill. Others leaned into darkness, a human experiment gone wrong, an escaped biological weapon, a cult ritual drawing on pre-Christian lore. Each theory had its adherents and its soundbite. But inside the footage, pixel by pixel, lay details that didn't add up to any easy answer. The joints seemed wrong. Motion tracking algorithms flagged sub-second accelerations a living human couldn't produce without shredding muscle and bone. Thermal filters showed inconsistent heat signatures, bone-cold limbs with a warm blood-glow core. Whatever it was, it bent the rules. Consider the people who first encountered it in person. A 52-year-old trucker named Mikhail, wheels covered in salt, face weathered by 1,000 winters, swore he almost hit it at dawn. It was standing like a man, he told a local reporter, voice low, but its head kept turning in little jerks, like someone rewound a puppet. He slowed, he honked. The thing hit his mirror and left a smear of red against the chrome. Mikhail drove to the next gas station and found that his passenger side mirror had inexplicable gouges, as if clawed by a metal edge. He kept driving. He refused to go home that day. Then there's Irina, who runs a roadside diner where long-haul drivers warm up. She remembers a family who stopped after the trucker radioed them. Do not use the old T67 road. They had their child in the back. The mother later told Irina that when they stopped, something pressed its face to their windshield from the outside and breathed on the glass. The baby slept through it. The parents did not. What makes a creature unafraid of glass? What makes it patient enough to wait while vehicles pass? And why, crucially, does it assault vehicles rather than people walking along the road? Theories multiplied because the creature's behavior didn't fit ordinary models. Predators hunt prey. Madmen attack what they fear or want. But this seemed fixated on metal and motion. It targeted headlights, tires, mirrors, the instruments humans use to travel safely. It struck vehicle after vehicle with the same deliberate aim, as if trying to disable them. Some conspiracy channels suggested a simple motive. It feeds on electricity. The evidence? Devices near the attack sites burned out. Dashcams shorted. Smartphone batteries dropped from 80% to 2% near the creature. One drone pilot reported his quadcopter's motors seizing mid-flight when he ascended to film it. The propellers groaned and failed, like a blown fuse. That's where the internet's mechanical minds took over. EMP pulse, someone posted. Biological conductor, another insisted. A fringe physicist drew speculative diagrams. Ionized skin, metallic biostructures, a body capable of coupling with electromagnetic fields. The diagrams looked convincing to people who wanted to believe the creature was more than a trick. And then someone found blood. It began as a comment on a moderated forum. A hiker, passing an abandoned lay-by, had spotted a smear of dried crimson along the guardrail. The same color humans call red, but thinner, more like rust. He photographed it. The photo circulated. Labs sprouted in private group chats, where enthusiasts with chemistry kits tried their own tests. The results were messy. Biological proteins, yes, but also metallic traces not normally found in flesh. Copper oxide, traces of manganese, and something with a crystalline pattern that didn't match known tissues. A professional lab that requested a sample, the only one willing to run a blind test, called the findings anomalous. They would not publish details. They told the reporter who phoned them, "We need more material." It was a polite way of saying, "This is beyond our reference." That scarcity turned discussion invasive. People began to hunt for the creature, not to capture it, but to touch it, photograph it, to take home a piece of evidence. That hunger produces mistakes. Two amateur hunters disappeared on a back road. Their car was found abandoned, doors ajar, engine still warm. The dashcam recorded a final, static blurred image, a pale silhouette approaching. No bodies were recovered that winter. The official search declared them missing, presumed taken by exposure. The local forum grew colder. Somewhere in the frozen earth, the truth, if truth there was, sat waiting. Local scientists tried to step in. A zoologist from a regional university documented carcass morphology from roadkill near attack sites. He found inconsistent anatomy, extra digits, an unusual tendon structure, teeth that fused into a beak when the mouth closed. He refused to give a soundbite beyond "it's mosaic." Mosaic. That is, made of parts that don't belong together. A beast stitched from fragments. It's a word that reappears in both scientific and occult corners. The occult corners leaned on folklore. In Russian countryside stories, there are creatures of the roadside, liminal things that live between places where the world's rules thin. They are not animals. They are grievances. They are the echo of something sacrificed in haste. A village burned, a promise broken, a body buried in the rut of a road. The old tales call them by names that translate poorly. The watchless, those between wheels. Could this modern entity be a technological echo of something older? Some commentators suggested that in a country strewn with both ancient rites and abandoned Soviet infrastructure, a cross-pollination might occur. Old superstitions overlaid with new experiments. A chemical leach from a long-closed factory flicker into folklore. And suddenly you have an explanation that pleased nobody and frightened everyone. Not everyone indulged myth. A more prosaic theory arose. Displaced humans. A homeless person, mutated by extremes of cold and exposure, adopting scavenged materials, metallic plates, wiring, to survive. That theory had a human face, and for some listeners, a compassionate one. But it collapsed under its own weight when thermal analysis showed the creature's core temperature inconsistent with a human physiology. Cameras recorded movement speeds impossible for a frail, starving person. And when vehicles were attacked, they were attacked with coordinated force, not random desperation. So the question hardened. How do we test something like this without destroying it, and without becoming the next missing pair on a forum? A small, unofficial expedition assembled. Camera operators, a retired military electrician, an independent journalist. They called themselves a task force of curiosity. Ill-advised, perhaps, but precise. They chose a road that had yielded the most convincing footage. A long, narrow stretch where a forest leans close, and the cold makes breath visible as paper. Their plan was simple. Bait the creature with a disabled vehicle. Rig sensors. Film from a safe distance. They parked an old Lada on the side, its battery removed and replaced with a decoy of capacitors wired to a crude generator. Lights were set to flicker. The idea: mimic broken-down travel and make the sight irresistible. They were not naive. They promised each other two things: never to approach within 10 meters, and never to interfere. They were careful, but not careful enough. Night pressed in. Cameras hummed. The generator whined like a throat cleared. For hours, nothing. The crew joked nervously, passing thermos cups under headlamps, making light of the risk. Then, at 2:17, one of the infrared arrays registered movement. A low, crawling shadow creeping along the tree line. The creature emerged like a set piece from a nightmare. The light struck it and revealed a torso wrapped in a membrane that shimmered under lamp glare. It moved without the smooth rhythm of mammals. Instead, it lunged in fits and pauses, each motion ending with a slight immune-like convulsion. It advanced to the Lada, sniffed the aluminum, tapped the rubber with a finger that ended in a talon. The crew recorded everything. The generator coughed. The creature paused, head cocked, and then, impossibly, the capacitors flashed. Cameras died for a heartbeat and came back with a wobbled ghost smear where the creature had been. When the visual returned clean, the Lada's driver door was crushed inward as if hit by a battering ram. The thick insulation wire had been wound around the door handle in an intricate spiral. The team radioed in the moment. The retired electrician swore he saw the pattern of the wire, a specific woven braid used in cold climate insulation. How would a wild animal know to braid cable like that? How would it manufacture such patterns of intent? They believed they had enough footage to force authorities to act. Instead, they received an official knock on the door. Men in unmarked uniforms arrived the next day with polite questions and an offer to look at their footage. The footage was taken, examined, and then, by all public accounts, returned with a single line: "Do not endanger yourselves. Avoid the T-67 corridor." That line was both warning and admission. The men did not explain why they had the right to take the footage. They did not explain what their testing had shown. They left a card with a logo that meant little to locals, but suggested chains of command. The crew dissolved. Some left town. Some deleted their recordings to avoid the attention. And the Lada that had been attacked, that vehicle vanished from the lot in the night, towed away by men who never left a receipt. Rumors seeded into the small towns around the affected roads. A restricted military project in the 1990s that went dark. A mine shaft that leaked chemical cocktails into the groundwater. A reanimated corpse stitched from scavenged prostheses. An illegal animal breeding operation that experimented with neural stimulation. Theories dressed themselves in the colors of their believers, but one story kept returning, like an insect at a porch light. An old research facility, closed and abandoned, that once attempted to combine biophysics and electromagnetic resonance. The facility, call it Project Polis, had been shuttered after a fire and funding cuts. Local old-timers recalled sealed trucks leaving at dawn, technicians with black gloves. Men who worked there said little, then moved away. The site's coordinates on the old maps were blurred, like someone had smeared them. No open record confirmed Project Polis. It existed in the whispers of ex-workers and the yellowed notes of a journalist's column that vanished from the archive. In other words, perfect soil for a conspiracy. What keeps people returning to the road are the small human moments. A father who refuses to travel that way after his wife vanished on a foggy stretch. A taxi driver who swears his fare turned to stone in the back seat after seeing a face at the window. A police officer who found her car immobile, and when she climbed out to inspect, felt the hairs on her arms slither, as if something walked across her shoulder. These are not sensational extras. They are the roots, the human cost that anchors the myth to reality. The creature, whatever it is, intrudes on ordinary life and leaves a mark you can't attribute to bad luck. And then there are the nights when the creature seems to watch the town itself. Headlights sweep the main square and pass by nothing. The creature is not always on the road. Sometimes it sits at the edge of the village and tilts its head toward the houses, listening. The climax, because every legend that grows in the dark demands one, arrived in the winter with a blizzard. A convoy of armored recovery trucks, official-looking and loud, rolled down the T-67. Satellite chatter, captured by a hobbyist scanner and leaked in a thread, discussed containment protocols and non-lethal suppression. Where they aimed their gear, the creature was sighted that night, near a rusted overpass where roadkill and discarded insulation lay like offerings. The recovery team's live feed was fragmented. You can piece it together. A flare, a charged lance that hummed like a bee, a sudden lurch of the creature as electromagnetic coils wrapped its limbs like a spider web. The vehicle cameras recorded a howl, not quite human, not quite animal, and then a blackout. When the feed resumed, the creature lay collapsed, convulsing like a machine with water in its gears. The troops moved in. A crate was lowered, straps fastened. Men in insulated suits approached with a caution that looked like reverence and fear. What they took away was not a specimen in glass. It was a container that vibrated faintly, as if something inside still worked. The footage ends with the convoy pulling away into the whiteout. There are shots of locals peering through doorways, mouths open, but hands frozen. After that night, sightings became sporadic but persistent. It's as if the creature learned. It moved to different roads, waited in different hedges. The official channels declared that a hazardous biological material had been contained. Local papers reprinted a sterile paragraph about environmental remediation. The internet called it a cover-up. The truth? No official body released the evidence publicly. The container may hold the answer, or it may cover a secret better left sealed. What we can observe, with the footage, the tests, the eyewitness accounts, is a pattern, an entity that moves between the categories we use to feel safe. It is not fully animal, not fully human, not fully machine. It occupies the margin, and margins are where the world forgets the rules. So what are we to do with that? Sit back and declare it solved because a truck left with a crate? Or keep looking, hungry, flawed, human, for more clues? Let's suppose for a moment you live near a road like the T-67. What do? You would probably avoid it. You would install Dashcam redundancies. carry extra batteries, take the longer route. You would listen for the odd sounds at night, and you would wake with the uneasy certainty that something has learned to read metal. But much of the world can't change its route. Delivery drivers must pass. Farmers must tend fields bisected by those roads. In that uncomfortable reality, there is another moral. The way technology magnifies both our curiosity and our risk. We post to capture truth. We post to warn. Our cameras keep us honest, but cameras also summon attention. And attention is a kind of feeding. That observation is uncomfortable because it makes us complicit. The same feeds that alarmed the world spread curiosity that sent people into danger. There is a line between documenting and becoming the spectacle. Sometimes we cross it without meaning to, and only afterwards do we see who we became in the footage. Finally, the last threads tighten to a chilling possibility. If this creature, call it a zombie, because the word comforts us with familiar terror, can interface with electricity, if it uses vehicles as vectors or target points, then roads become more than travelways. They are arteries. Disrupt the arteries, the thing starves. Feed the arteries, it learns. Imagine a world where infrastructure is fragile enough to be prey. Imagine darkness where the hum of a generator is as dangerous as the howl of wolves. That is the nightmare-level scale of the problem. But we do not end in speculation. We end with what was left behind. A smear of rust, a twisted mirror, a missing pair of boots by a roadside, an old man who still hears a thud in his sleep and knows it wasn't a dream. The recorded footage, the lab tests, the convoy's crate. These are shards. We can hold them, stare, and see reflections of our own questions. How much do we risk to know? What do we do when our inventions become prey? And when the thing that watches us learns to prefer metal to flesh? Who will protect the roads? The last image in the best quality clip is simple and small. The creature, standing in the drizzle by a guardrail, watching as a family car pulls into the distance. It raises one hand, not in greeting, but to shade its eyes from the headlights, as if studying the family within. For a long second it seems almost human in curiosity. Then it turns its head and melts into the dark between the trees. We are left with the sound of the road. Tires on ice, a distant horn, and the knowledge that somewhere out there, a thing moves that does not fit our definitions. We have pieces of evidence and no comfortable explanation. We have fear, and we have footage. We have questions that do not resolve neatly. If you take anything from this, take this. Drive carefully and watch the roadside. The world has always been larger than our maps. Sometimes the edges stare back. They filmed something in Russia that refuses to be filed under one heading. Whether you call it monster, experiment, or myth, it changed the way people travel and the way they sleep. It turned a road into a rumor, and it taught a simpler, older lesson. Curiosity finds answers, but sometimes those answers are harder to live with than the question. So the next time your headlights catch a pale shape at the side of the road, do not assume it is human. Do not assume it can be reasoned with. And above all, remember this: metal and motion can attract more than attention. They can attract hunger. Good night. Drive safe. And if you see something at the edge of your lights, do not roll down your window. What watches the roads watches us back.